Hey everyone, my name is Mike Vaughn. I'm a writer at Geek Vibes Nation, and I'm also the author of The Ultimate Guide to Strange Cinema.
And I'm Dylan Gonzalez. I'm the editorial director for GeekVibesNation.com and also a co-host of the Home Dance Film Festival podcast.
And we're doing something a little different. We This is a bonus episode, as you probably no doubt can tell from the title. We are spotlighting some really great queer, or at least queer, but also sort of queer iconic movies. And it's going to be a fun time. It's going to be a shorter one, but yeah, I think that it's great because we celebrate this month, but it's also we have to remember kind of why we celebrate it, because there's still people that think that they're less than because of like who they authentically are. So with that out of the way, let's get this party started. So I'm gonna start with so we're gonna do the normal back and forth. And I'm gonna kick this party off with so new I have two newer releases and two older but really amazing releases that y'all should be checking out. So my first title is Sublime, and here's the back. So I wanted to really like this movie, but it's not very good. And yeah, so I think the premise is kind of basic, and I think that had this movie maybe come out maybe 20 years ago, this would have been sort of groundbreaking. But since we have so much great sort of queer stories, and not only just queer stories but from all over the world now, um you really kind of have to step up your game in terms of like what's going to be really interesting, or like as a viewer I need to be engaged with these characters. And unfortunately I kind of wasn't. I thought its heart was in the right place, but it's just one of those movies that I think it would have been a great short film, but padded out to you know I think it was like 96 minutes or something. It's just it drags, and it kind of is a drag. Because my next one I'm going to talk about after you're done is so much better. I actually watched these two movies like back to back, and it was like worlds differently. So yeah, Sublime, not quite Sublime. It is a good release, though. I will say there's some really nice bonus features, and I appreciate the fact that this wasn't just dumped with like nothing. It is a DVD. I don't believe that there's a Blu-ray option. And this sucks because there's a lot of great like locale shooting that just looks really awful in 720p. Like you really see the limitations of this like digital upconvert. Which is a shame, because I feel like if I had anything good to say about this movie, it is beautifully shot, and I think the acting's good. So it's a shame that we have just the DVD. But Sublime, maybe not Sublime, but it was all right.
Yeah, I noticed like no shade on the label that was putting it out, but they were kind of an unknown whenever I saw that was coming through, and I was like, maybe I'll just. And plus, it was DVD. I was like, maybe I'll just skip on this for now and see how it pans out. And I guess it sounds like I made the right choice, but I'm also a much bigger fan of your next title, so I'm excited to hear you talk about that one. But delving into my first title, I wanted to kind of. I'm not like explaining myself, like trying to like defend myself, but my kind of approach to kind of this episode is I didn't want to focus solely on titles that were like strictly coming out stories or anything like that, are struggling with like the queer identity and stuff. I wanted it to be more kind of a celebration of some of the like queer artists that have come in the past or recently, and just kind of like queer storytelling in general, or just a queer aesthetic. So my first title is from creator Mark Cherry, who created Desperate Housewives. This is his newest series, Why Women Kill, the complete
Oh,
series, that aired on originally CBS All Access, but turned out into Paramount Plus. This lasted 2 seasons, so we get a 6-disc set here, composing all 20 episodes. And while this isn't strictly like a queer narrative, Mark Cherry, he definitely brings that flavor to it as a gay man. And there's characters within this story. This is set in the first season at least is set in 3 different time periods. One is in the 50s, one is in the 80s, and one is in modern day. And they're all kind of contending with like how women are treated and how they're kind of pushed to the edge of just like why women kill, like what kind of society is kind of put on them that has like would lead them to being kind of rageful and like wanting to express it. So some of these stories do deal with queer characters, like in the 80s storyline with Lucy Liu. She finds out that her husband is a closeted gay man and how she kind of reacts to that. And then the modern narrative, we're dealing with like kind of a polyamorous couple that like dealing with their kind of the complications of that and like jealousy and like with all the different figures involved in that relationship. And the 50s is more of a traditional like 1950s housewife kind of under the thumb of a cheating husband. But the way this narrative evolves, and then like in the second season, it kind of shifts, it breaks format and kind of just stick to a singular time period in the past with the great Alison Tolman, who I really love. But the way this series evolves, like I was a little bit unsure the first few episodes just because the character, like the female characters kind of seem very arch and very broad in kind of how they were depicted, which is it's a Mark Cherry show, so I don't really like it's soapy, it's kind of like a little bit darkly comedic, it's fun. But I wanted a little bit more like depth to the characters, which we did start to get as the season progressed and you learn more about these women, and it just wasn't so like standard tropey type stuff. And the second season I thought was even better. So there's a lot of really great performers within this. It's soapy, it's fun, it's campy at times, but I think it really does hit on something that is impactful, and like the production design and stuff is fantastic. The music choices, everything about this is, it's not like a prestige drama, but it's more like kind of like a comfort watch, and it just kind of makes you, it's not a guilty pleasure because it's a good show, but it just kind of makes you, it's like a lighter watch that you can enjoy and kind of root on these characters and stuff. So there's I really, Mark Cherry, he can be hit or miss, but I think overall this one is a pretty fun show, and I had a good time catching up with this, and I'm glad it is on Blu-ray. Unfortunately, like there was a third season ordered, but they canceled it before it could even get into production. So screw you, Paramount Plus. But I'm really happy to have these 2 seasons. They're really fun. This looks really great on Blu-ray. This is from Paramount, and these are manufactured on demand Blu-rays, so they are burned disc. You may get lucky and maybe get a pressed disc, but these should hold up pretty well and everything. But I do want to note that. But at least we do get this on Blu-ray, the complete series. There's no special features, unfortunately, but the quality of the episodes themselves in HD, DTS sound looks really great, sounds really great. So this is a really fun show, and I thought it might be a fun pick to throw in this episode.
Yeah, I love that show. I think it's great. My husband and I think we maybe caught it just before the second season premiered. We wanted to get caught up, and we were like instantly hooked. So, it's a bummer about season 3, but we have these, and as you say, we have these on Blu-ray. That's so awesome. I'm gonna bring it down a little bit here. But then it's okay because then we'll get back up here. But my next film is You Can Live Forever, and this is one that got a lot of critical buzz, and I really wanted to see it. And also I have to mention the fact that this is a very serious movie, right? But we have a blooper reel,
Yeah,
which I love. I mean, unironically, yeah. I love that.
Yes.
Yeah, this movie, if you are somebody that's not dead inside, you will want to get your tissues, because holy crap, this is an emotional roller coaster. So as I said, I don't want to keep like dumping on this Sublime, but I as I said earlier, I did watch these back to back. And in the first 10 minutes, already could see like the filmmaking just from a technical standpoint was so much better. I instantly knew who these characters were. And I think like having this be sort of a religious based queer film, I think is really interesting. I think it adds some like much needed sort of like an extra layer to, you know, make this love story a little bit more interesting. Again, I think that we do live in a time where I think not only do we have a lot more representation in film and television, but we have better representation in film and television. So, you know, that's why when there's some that still sort of stumble, I don't feel as kind of raw about it, because we do have more options these days. And but my overarching point is you still need to sort of make it stand out among the other sort of, like, this is like very much like a forbidden love story, um a lesbian love story, and we see a lot of those, which is great. But you know, it's almost like I think they did like an SNL parody of like all these sort of like um these sort of like tropes. But this is great. It is so well made. The acting is great. I mean, there was like, it's not like a thriller, but there's moments that are so tense. Like when the I guess it's her like uncle-in-law or something, like discovers their secret, and he's like, she's just in bed waiting for him to come home and like flip out, and it never happens, but it sustains that tension and you just feel sick to your stomach. And I mean, again, it's great filmmaking when it can really like hook you that hard that you're feeling something comparable to what the character is feeling. So yeah, great. I loved it. Again, I love that there's a blooper reel because that's a fun. You usually just see that in comedies, but yeah, that's good. I like that. Yeah, it's a great release. I'm glad this got a Blu-ray because it is beautiful. It's a beautifully shot film. It is very atmospheric. There's just some really beautiful like shot compositions, lighting, like some beautiful like outdoor scenery. And that's something where Sublime, just the 720p just really just crapped the bed for me. But yeah, this is great. This is from I don't know why I forgot to say this is from Kino Lorber and GDE, but yeah, it's fantastic. Check it out. You will again, you will need some tissues, but then watch the blooper reel afterwards. That's a nice sort of palate cleanser.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I co-sign that completely. I really enjoyed that movie. There are moments where like there's some music in that I had to look up afterwards because it was impacting me so much. I was like, I love this music, and just how all of it flows together is really nice. And speaking of tense, whenever you were talking about like how they made you tense, there was like a scene, I won't spoil stuff, but there's a scene where the two girls are going on like a movie date with these two guys, and then afterwards one of them is being dropped off at the house, and they walk each other to like the back door, and they take a moment to like make out on the side of the house. And I was like so afraid that they were going to get caught. Like I was just so invested. I was like, dear God, don't, because like I know what it would mean for them, but like you said, that's a sign of like how invested I was in like their relationship, and I wanted the best for them. But it's such a great movie, and I'm glad you were able to cover it.
Yeah.
My next title, okay. So the reason I'm choosing this one is because it is directed by the great George Cukor, who he's done classics like The Philadelphia Story. He won Best Director for My Fair Lady. But he had to be a closeted gay man because he was in old Hollywood, and that's just how it was. So this is one of his kind of underseen films that I wanted to spotlight called Les Girls, which it's a movie, musical slash comedy, kind of like if if Rashomon was a musical comedy, this is what you would get. Because it starts out with it's like a courtroom scene where there's three girls that have kind of been like in this Paris dance review. That one of them's like suing the other one for writing this book for like libel and stuff, and they kind of each give their perspective on like what happened when they were there in Paris, dancing for the Gene Kelly character. And you just kind of get like a moment like with each of them and just kind of their experiences over there as I saw it. And it's really fun. And so Gene Kelly, he plays like this promoter slash like director, producer, who's like directing these girls played by Mitzi Gaynor, Kate Kendall, and Tanya Elg, who the latter, Tanya, she pops up in one of the special features and kind of tells about her experiences on this, which I thought was a cool touch. Because sometimes Warner Archive releases don't always have like archival interviews like that, so I was glad to have that. But it's just like a really fun movie musical where it's just like misunderstandings, a little bit of slapsticky, some romance and stuff, some good musical numbers and dance numbers. It's just really great, and I think George he just did a really good job of like putting this all together and everything, and just like for this episode especially, like learning more about him and just kind of how he was kind of considered like almost like the head of the underground like Hollywood like gay culture back in that time, and how he was arrested for vice charges at one point at that time, but they kind of like the head of the studio was able to get it like disappeared basically, and he didn't have to serve any time. But just like to know like he was like out, but he wasn't like out because like at that time you could be out, but like everyone kind of knew, and just like how he like friends with Katharine Hepburn and like had these lavish parties, and just I was like this dude seems so cool, and I just wanted to spotlight some of his work. And this Blu-ray is really great. This is one of like kind of a more early Warner Archive effort from 2018. I think they've kind of refined their process and became even better, but this still looks really great. This is from a 2K scan of the inner positive, which I think was struck from the original camera negative. And it looks really nice. I think it's really sharp, nice colors, not a lot in the way of like nicks or scratches. It's still very clean, like you would expect from Warner Archive. The sound's good. Like I said, you had that vintage featurette. There's an additional animated short on here from Tex Avery, and like a theatrical trailer. So if you like movie musicals, Les Girls is a fun one. George Cukor is a great director, and I was excited to put a spotlight on him because he's awesome.
Yeah, and I will also well, first of all, I'll echo that. He's one of my favorite directors. He did a movie, The Women, which is amazing. It's if you haven't seen it, it's kind of like mind-blowing. And Joan Crawford like has like some of the best lines. There was like this line where they basically call her a bitch, but they do it in like a sort of like a night, like I think it was it the 40s?
Yeah,
they did it in a very like 40s kind of way, but like you get the point. Like
yeah, yeah.
so so my last two titles, I wanted to pick something that are older releases, but really important to me, and as like something that was really meaningful when I was sort of discovering my authentic self, and I was like really discovering these like queer artists that really made a big impact. And so Pink Flamingos from Criterion, and John Waters and Criterion have been working together for a while now. So this is really cool. It's like a little art exhibit,
Nice.
which is great. We have a barf bag, which depending on like your sensibilities or just our audience's sensibilities, you might need that. Now
Yeah.
I can't remember, you've recently seen this or you haven't seen this?
No, this was the one we talked about, I believe, on our Valentine's Day episode with Andre, where I said that I had I had seen Pink Flamingos when I was way too young, and it
Oh,
almost
right.
made me sick to
Yes.
my stomach. So I probably need that bark back.
Okay, yeah. I thought that was the case, but I just like wanted to like double check because I know
Yeah.
like I know it was Andre that hadn't seen these in a little while, or maybe not at all, and had finally watched these. But anyways, yeah, this is a movie that I mean, I was probably in high school when I watched, and I instantly kind of loved it. Um, my I had been sort of discovering like underground artists prior to this, like Kenneth Anger and like Jim Jarmusch and all these really great like queer underground directors. But like seeing Pink Flamingos just like really flipped a switch for me. I got to meet John Waters. He was awesome. I got to see his live shows like 3 times. Um, right before we locked down, he had a Valentine's thing. I can't remember where. It's like a bar he really likes in Baltimore. But yeah, this movie is not for the faint of heart. It takes all the taboos and really just puts them in your face. It's interesting when you watch some like older John Waters, like even though this is kind of still rough around the edges, I mean, especially considering, the same person that made this made Hairspray, one of the most mainstream accessible kind of films maybe ever, but um it still has that crude DIY punk rock feel. But again, when you compare this to like Multiple Maniacs, or like Mondo Trasho, if you can find that one's a little hard to find, but like when you compare these to like his earlier films, like this is actually kind of more polished, weirdly. But yeah, it's still sick, twisted, hilarious. I love it. I got to interview some of the cast. I'll have Andre put it up, but I have a signed Pink Flamingos poster. I have a friend of ours did a Divine Crochet piece for us. That's amazing. So I'm a big fan. This is a great release. They really did an awesome job. I just love how like detailed this is. Also, I want to mention one of the huge things in this is Divine Trash, the documentary that actually used to be kind of hard to find. It used to be, I believe it was out of print for a long time, is just a feature from this. Just a bonus feature on that. So like that's a really cool and really exciting thing. It ports over some stuff from the Laserdisc, some brand new stuff, so you have a little bit of mixture of like some previous material and some new material. So yeah, this is a great release. This is one that if you're a fan of like cult films, like this is like the granddaddy of like cult films.
Yeah, I'm still a little bit afraid to watch it, but maybe one day I'll chance it. I just had such a visceral reaction
Yeah,
the first
how
time
old
I
were
watched.
you? Did you say?
Like 11 maybe,
Wow.
like something around there, 10 or 11 probably.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty. It's pretty intense. Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, I think you could hang with it now. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know. Report back to
I'll,
us
I'll,
if you do.
I'll report back. That'll be a very special episode. Yeah, anyway, so my next title, it is more of a newer title. It is one that has a special place in my heart, and it is one that I would say probably is the most like traditionally queer of everything that I'm talking about. It is the 2018 film We the Animals.
Mm,
I hesitate because I have a special relationship to this because it's the first film I ever saw in person at the Sundance Film Festival. Like the first year I went, so it was the very first screening we went to was We the
nice.
Animals, and I loved it. It's been a really great movie. So I wasn't quite sure when it actually came out wide. I just know I saw it in 2018 at the Sundance Film Festival, and I loved revisiting this. This is from director Jeremiah Zagar, who last year, interestingly enough, I didn't expect this to be his follow up, directed the Adam Sandler movie Hustle, which was actually pretty good. So I was glad that he at least kept up his quality. But this is a story of it centers specifically on one young boy, but it's like three young brothers that range from probably about like 8 to 13, I would say, who are it is set in the past. I believe it's like the 80s, and they have like a working class father and mother who they have kind of a rocky relationship with their father. He can be really great and gregarious and very like loving and stuff, but then he'll get mad and sometimes like hit their mom, and like it's just a very rocky relationship. But so this is kind of their kind of like coming of age, like at that time of their life, trying to figure out the world. They're kind of going on like kind of adventures like out into like the like rural like areas and stuff. And at the same time, our central figure, the youngest boy, he's not like overtly wrestling with his sexuality because he's very young, but he's like kind of you can there's instances where he's like you can tell he like has like an extra interest like whenever like he's around other boys, or like they like this group of boys meets like a different group of friends, and they kind of all go together to like watch a like their dad's porn tape in the basement, and everyone's like, oh yeah, and then like it's suddenly like a gay porn scene comes on, and everyone's like, oh man, it's a bad one, and you can kind of see his face go like ooh, like I'm interested and stuff. So like there's kind of those like subtle touches where you can tell that this young kid, he's very sensitive and he's kind of unsure of his place in the world, but it's like very well told. It's very like sensitively handled. It's just a very great coming of age tale like within this family, and like the really great performances from the young kids and the older actors. The older actor who plays their dad is Raul Castillo, who I believe was in the HBO show Looking, which is a lot of like had a lot of it was about gay culture and everything, and he's started a lot of other like queer centric movies like The Inspection from last year. He's just a really great like burgeoning actor who's just done a lot like in the last half decade or so, and I'm eager to see more. But this is a really great movie, really great drama. This comes from The Orchard. Again, this is a burned on demand disc. It's manufactured, so it's a burned Blu-ray disc. But like I said, it should still hold. It should hold up for many years. But I just want to make that clear. This comes with a really great. This is kind of has like I'm not sure if it was shot on like 16 millimeter or anything, but it has kind of that aesthetic. So it's kind of like a little like grainy and a little ragged and like You Are There type situation, but it looks really nice in high definition. The grain resolves really well. No damage or anything like that. DTS 5.1 sound looks really good. There's a couple of featurettes, like a 3-minute featurette with the young cast talking about their experiences. There's some outtakes. There's a piece. This was originally a book, so it talks about the process of adapting book to film. Which some of those flourishes are injected into the film in really cool ways, because like you'll see like animated like little drawings that kind of like serve as interstitials, which are really cool. But really love this film. We the Animals, really highly recommended. If anyone like, just if you love movies, check it out.
And if you don't love movies, why are you here?
Yes,
But
you're just like wasting your time talking, unless you just want to see us, which is fine.
I mean,
That's cool.
yes, we bring the sex appeal. I mean, we're
Yep.
but my final title, as much as I love John Waters and Pink Flamingos, I wanted to end on a movie that really has a special place in my heart. And it got a really cool release, and that's always a great thing to celebrate, and that is Elvira's Haunted Hills. Here's the back. We get a really nice like thick slipcover, which it's not unheard of with Scream Factory, but they don't do that often, so that's really awesome that they kind of sprung for that. And I like there's certain movies that I kind of remember when I first seen them, and this was definitely one of those. Like I just gravitated towards it like instantly. It just had that like really funny sense of humor, but at the time I was really big into like the Roger Corman, um, Vincent Price, Edgar Allan Poe adaptations. So I saw this right at the right time because I was binging all those and really loving these. And this is just a love letter to those movies. Aesthetically, thematically, it's a little bit of a hodgepodge of like all of those movies. Like premature I was gonna say premature burial, but that's not one of them. I'm blanking on it now. Yeah, we could cut this. Um, but yeah, it's just it's it's how I think you should do a sort of a satire of a certain sort of genre because there really is love there for this material. I think like the best parodies, you kind of have to have that reverence for it. And yeah, this definitely does. And what's nice is I got to meet Elvira twice. She just recently came out. The director is very openly queer, and I've gotten to know him, Sam Irvin, really sweet guy. And in fact, he was one of the first people to call and congratulate my husband and I when we first got engaged. So that's really awesome. I have maybe Andre can put a picture of it on the screen, but I have this beautiful one sheet signed by Elvira and Sam, and that's so awesome. I had like an old school DVD of this as well. So yeah, this looks great. It's a new 4K scan. That's awesome. We get a new intro by Elvira herself, Cassandra Peterson, and this also ports over all the legacy stuff from the previous release, which had some pretty fun stuff. So yeah, really great. It's campy, it's funny, it's got a musical number for no goddamn reason, but it's awesome. Um, you got this quote from Rob Zombie. So yeah, I, yeah, gosh, I love it. It's just one of those movies that is so special to me. It kind of blows my mind that this movie wasn't a big hit. Pretty famously, Cassandra put up a lot of her own money to produce this film. I think it's probably maybe making it back now with like home video releases and sort of like getting sort of a cult following. But yeah, it's fun. If you haven't watched this, and this is like a great Halloween time watch, but I could just watch this anytime. So um, I love it. I don't know what else to say. It's a really good time.
Absolutely. I've reviewed both Elvira films for GVN, so I will put links to those in the description. But I love Cassandra Peterson and those movies. They're a lot of fun. So co-sign that as well. My final title is another spotlight on a director who mostly had to remain closeted for most of his life. This is directed by Tony Peterson from the Warner Archive, and this is The Loved One. Who Tony, from what I could tell, he was married to Vanessa Redgrave, and he came out as bisexual near the end of his life, and he unfortunately died of AIDS in the early 90s. But he directed one hell of a satire. He also directed the Best Picture winner Tom Jones. But this one, it says like the motion picture was something to offend everyone, and that's pretty bold statement. But it is kind of, it's not offensive, but it's like the places it goes. I was kind of surprised at points. It's a really wacky, like dark satire, very British humor, but it's about at the beginning of it's very wild. It kind of tonally reminds me a little bit if you've ever seen the Blake Edwards film SOB. It's very dark and just kind of like taking the piss out of Hollywood and like everything. But so this starts with a guy who randomly he was dropping someone off at the airport, and it was like the billionth customer served or something, and got like a free ticket to America. He's just like, I don't know what's happening. He ends up in Hollywood. He chooses to go to Hollywood, and to live with his uncle, but like very soon afterwards, this isn't really a big spoiler. His uncle kills himself after like making a mistake at like the place he works at like a Hollywood studio, and quickly changes setting to a mortuary where there it just becomes like a crazy satire where he falls in love with this like lady who works at the mortuary, and kind of gets himself involved also with like kind of that life. And there's like a lot of great satire about like how the people who work there kind of like upsell you and like prey on your grief of just like, oh, would you want your loved one to live like rest in this type of cotton or coffin, or like that's like waterproof, leak proof, like moisture proof. It just like keeps like escalating and stuff, and like it's like that type of humor, but then like also like a lot of fun with like the woman he falls in love with is very like dedicated to the cause and kind of like religious and just like kind of like zealot a little bit, and just like I have a lot of fun with that. So they poke fun of religion and the act of dying and profiteering from dying, and how all this stuff is kind of like all tied together, and just like Hollywood. It's a wild time. It's very British, like I said, but it's very funny, darkly so. So if you have a dark sense of humor, I think you'll like this. If you have a very British sense of humor, you'll also like this. Yes, so this is for you. So this comes from a 2K scan of the fine grain, and it looks really nice. Once again, this is I believe this was 2019 from Warner Archive. Looks really good, and I think it lives up to their standards. The sound's great. This has a 15-minute vintage featurette in which like the cast and crew members reflect on the making of this film, or just like from the original source material and how it was eventually adapted, and how people responded to it, like being offended and like kind of like protesting and everything. I believe that's the only special feature. There's a theatrical trailer. If this sounds up your alley, give it a shot. It's darkly comedic, but it's a lot of fun. And Tony Richardson, he was a really great director. So I wanted to put a spotlight on him as well. So that's all I have. But like I'm proud of my picks. I hope everyone enjoys them.
Yeah, no, I loved each and every one of those. They're great. I have seen that before. It's been a while, but I remember it being very wild. Almost had a like Hal Ashby kind of like flavor to it.
Exactly.
Which if you know, like, you don't know who that is, Google him and then watch every single thing that you possibly can from him. But yeah, no, that's great. This was I hope you all had a good time. This was a lot of fun. It's great to talk about these movies. I like how we pick some mainstream stuff. We pick some stuff that's a little more indie, not Jones, but like indie in the sense of independent. But yeah, it was a good time. So if you like this, we do so this is obviously a bonus episode, but we do the video attic every week. So if you want to hear our thoughts about like the latest home video releases, you'll want to be subscribed. As always, the obligatory, please give us a like, comment, all that stuff. It's really awesome to kind of see the video attic is getting a lot more views a lot more quickly. So it's cool that you all are sticking around with us, and we appreciate that. And as always, thank you for hanging out with us.